how to dethrone a king. How do you dethrone a king? That's what I want you – just take a moment and think about. How do you dethrone – if you're going to dethrone the king, especially the king of college football, where would you attack him? While you think about that, I want to remind you about Taco Casa. Taco Casa, quality since 1974, quality, taste, and value. Quality, taste, and value. Fresh ingredients, always made to order. 6 locations in Tuscaloosa, Northport to better serve you. You can go in and ask them for the chimalupa, those soft shell tacos or burritos, whatever you need when it comes to the Mexican food. You're going to get quality, you're going to get value, and you're going to have great taste and made to order. The Wilkins family and Taco Casa in business since 1974 in the Tuscaloosa community. Check them out online at tacocasa.com or go by one of those locations and tell them that Martin Houston with the Blitz told you to stop by. How do you dethrone the king of college football? You attack what made him the king of college football. There's debate whether Nick Saban is the greatest coach of all times, but I think I would like to find one person who would say that Nick Saban is not the greatest recruiter of all times. Now, is he the single most greatest recruiter? No, he has a system, a process, and then he plugs and plays. When coaches leave, part of his requirement to be a coach on his staff, I think, is you have to be an excellent recruiter. So if you're going to dethrone him, you have to attack him where he's strongest, and that's in the recruiting game. And because of that, I believe that there is a collision course about to happen in college football in the SEC between the East and the West. I believe there is going to be a showdown. You hear me? It's going to be a showdown between college football powerhouse Nick Saban and one of his proteges, and that would be, of course, Kirby Smart. I think Kirby Smart has figured it out. He's out recruiting. Right now, he sits at number 2. But who did he coach for? Who did he learn from? Nick Saban. Alabama is the clear number 1 team in the SEC when it comes to recruiting, but Georgia is number 2. And is probably, James, as far ahead of LSU and Texas A&M, that as far as Alabama is ahead of those guys, Kirby is that far ahead of the guys in the East. He is that far. He is outdistancing the other coaches when it comes to recruiting. And so when you look at that, what does what do? You go after recruits. And when you look at Alabama had some guys decommit from them this year. This class is the number 1 class. But they had three big time names decommit. And guess where they went? One went to Florida State, Cam Akers, the number 1 running back recruit in the nation. Florida State, Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher recognizes, if I can get a guy that Nick Saban wants, that means that that's the guy that's not playing for Alabama and playing for me. That matters because Cam Akers has now been rated in front of Najee Harris. Guess who we play the first game of the year? Florida State. Guess who lost their all-time leading rusher? Florida State. Guess who Florida State is replacing their all-time leading rusher with? The number 1 rated running back in this year's class. That's how you do it. You keep him from Alabama and you get him on your team. Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm was a quarterback that was committed to Alabama. And now he is going to Georgia. Jake Fromm, former Alabama commit, now goes to Georgia. Notori Johnson, an offensive guard, 3-star commit, said he was concerned that Mario Cristobal might leave, so he was going to look elsewhere, and, of course, he ends up at Georgia. So if you're going to beat Nick Saban, you got to go after him with recruiting. All the other guys that have decommitted from Alabama, Bowie, wide receiver, Ole Miss, he was a guy that Alabama, he didn't feel prioritized by Alabama. Alabama didn't want him. Gary Johnson, linebacker that ended up at Texas, had some academic issues that he couldn't qualify in the SEC from junior college. He's at Texas. Javonte Dean, cornerback, didn't even end up starting on his team this year. That's why he's not at Alabama. Aaron Sterling, defensive end, said, I didn't feel prioritized by Alabama. Brandon Reeves, the kicker, wanted to go to stay close to home, went to Arizona State from Arizona. But there's two guys on the board that Alabama absolutely want, and that's Henry Ruggs, wide receiver out of Montgomery, and Christopher Henderson. And he's down to like Alabama, Florida, and Florida State. There's an Alabama guy in there, McElwain, on Christopher Henderson. And Henry Ruggs, Florida State. Jimbo Fisher. I'm telling you, these guys know that the secret to being successful is going to be recruiting. And if you don't beat Nick Saban in recruiting, you're not going to beat him on the field. He's going to come in with the best talent, and he knows how to develop that talent, and he knows how to get those guys to work together. I said Jimbo Fisher, to me, is the best disciple of Nick Saban. He has a different personality, but he does the process as well as anybody that's ever coached under him. He has the national championship. Kirby Smart going into year 2 is showing that he has the recruiting prowess that Nick Saban had. Number 2 in the SEC, number 3 overall. How do you dethrone the king of college football? You attack him in the recruiting game. You go head-to-head against him in the recruiting game, and you get talent on your team that he wanted on his and make him settle for someone else. But be careful what you do, because if you make the king settle for someone else, you take Brandon Ruiz, the number 2 kicker, he'll just go out and get a kid that's committed somewhere else to decommit and come here like he did with Joseph Belovas, ranked in some polls as the number 1 kicker in college football. Do I think anybody's close to dethroning the king of recruiting? Not so fast. But if you're going to dethrone the king, you have to attack the king at his strongest point, not at his weakest. And Kirby Smart is well on his way to making that happen. Number 2 recruiting class. Can you believe that? Georgia. And what does that mean? We'll talk about this more as we move throughout the season. They had the big battle over Maurice Smith this summer, James. They're having a big recruiting battle now over certain guys. And it's going to be interesting to see if they become the king of if they become the best, the beast of the East, and we're the best in the West. Alabama and Georgia, I think, headed for a collision course down the road in the SEC championship game, because it starts with the recruiting and then coaching them up. That's how you dethrone a king. I don't think anybody's ready to do it, though.